Hi, everybody. And today I would like to welcome Dan Rogers, Canada's corporate fitness coach, to this conversation. Now, Dan has over 15 years of experience, more than 30 years of coaching, and he's worked with everyone from first responders and professional athletes to CEOs and teachers. And after years of running and his own gym, he's made the transition to the world of corporate fitness, helping professionals, teams, and organizations improve their health, mindset, and performance. And it's because of this transition to the corporate fitness that I think real interest for this conversation, because that many owner coaches have never considered, even partially. So I would like to say thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I was wondering, just to start off, maybe not a very simple question, but how did you get into coaching to start with?
Generally into coaching, I was training as a university athlete, and I came into fall into CrossFit. So in my local town, there was a new CrossFit starting up. At the time, it was called Firepower Training, and we began with nine. The thought was there's 10-minute workouts that you can do that'll put you on your back and make you, make it very tough. So I thought, bring it on. And I'd loved working out up until that point, and I loved everything about the variety and the community and the learning technique and the challenges and supporting each other. And so I fell in love with that in 2008. And fast forward to a year later after university, I was really good at it, and I really liked helping others organically in the past as being a leader in my hockey career. And so I fell into what would be like an organic path to coaching, and I like the fulfillment that came from helping others achieve their goal, being part of the troubleshooting and the successes and everything else. And so I kind of moved through that, and it's been something I've been pursuing ever since with coaching.
Nice. And then, because obviously at some point you made the decision to follow, I would call the traditional path of owning your own gym. How did that come about?
So I was working underneath or at somebody else's gym for about 4 years. And I think it was actually others who poked at me and said, you know what, you should open up your own gym one day. I think you do really well at it. I said, no, I'm happy here. This is great. I love what I'm doing. And I said, no, I think you'd be good at it. And it became, the seed was planted. And then I wanted some autonomy with how I would run my gym. And I wanted to, honestly, truthfully, at the core of it was getting the good word of exercise and healthy living and everything that I think CrossFit embodies, and exercise and wellness and all that embodies. I wanted to get that to a broader audience. And I thought that where I was working had not exhausted what their capacity was with the community, but I thought that I could go and bring that elsewhere into an area that did not have an affiliate. So I looked at the map and I said, right there, it's close to the highway. It's got lots of residential. It has lots of businesses. That's a good spot. And then we sought out a building and we moved forwards, and it was scary. They said no to us for the building multiple times, and we just kept being persistent, and they finally gave it to us with a big deposit. And then we ended up moving forwards with growing a really nice community for 7 years at my CrossFit affiliate. And it was something that I'm probably one of the most proud things I've ever done is starting it from zero and getting it to the point it was 6 years down the road, and all the relationships and positive things that we had influencing people's lives is just very fulfilling.
And then obviously we can probably all guess, but something happened that was maybe a plot twist in your life that made you switch your attention towards kind of a sister field to CrossFit.
Yeah. So sorry, say that again, Fran.
Yeah. So something happened, or what made you make the shift towards then corporate fitness and wellness?
Yeah. So I had inherently in my affiliate had members who were in corporate, and they would bring their teams in to do some team building exercises. We had accounts at the time where we would do on-site fitness at their office gyms, and it was going very well. That was a small portion of our revenue generating stream or a business model, but it was there. And so I had a little bit of exposure to that. And so fast forward to, March 2020, big global change. People our gym was shut down, and a whole bunch of different things were happening. Our gym was going online and this, and I thought, how can I still help people with the skill set that I have? So people need help. They're stressed out. They're not maybe thinking clearly. Their habits are quickly, diminishing in terms of they're not taking care of themselves, stressed about the global things that are happening. And we thought, well, we need to provide help to people that are stressed. And that came to my wife and I's conscience when we were looking at her work team and our members' work teams and our members. And we thought we could do something. Let's provide some laughter, because I think laughter gets lost with adults as time goes on. Mm-hmm. So let's provide structured stretching so they don't have to think about doing it themselves. They can just follow along and they can do it with others. Let's provide workshops that are nuanced, details, education, insight, inspiration, and accountability towards key topics that help people live well. And let's see how that goes. And we opened up our company, RX Recourse, and we started to connect with all the companies that we currently had in our network and see if there was legs. And there was. And we started to get some traction with some accounts. People hired us on to be a more frequent touch points with their team, and we had success, and it's grown to what it is now with being a different version, being back to hybrid. But that was where it all started. And I thought there's just a need. And I would ask teams, is your company doing anything to help you with their health and wellness? And it was like pizza on Fridays, casual attire, yoga once a week or once a month. And all these like redundant things that just weren't real and meaningful things for long-term impact or helping somebody work and live better. It was just a spaghetti on the wall, throwing a dart. Hopefully this works. And there was no strategy behind it. And so the more conversation I had in corporate, the more I found that there was not a strategy with the HR team or chief people officer or whoever to help their team with health and wellness. So that encouraged me to keep going, and that was that's continuing to be something I do today.
Yeah, I think it's great that you took something that you were doing and you saw an opportunity with it and you ran with it. And I think if we bring it back to how it all started, so you were doing some team building exercises and things like that already within your affiliate. And I think, knowing your listeners, how did you even get started with that? Because they often think that already is a challenge.
Yeah, so the team leaders would be the members at our gym, and then they would say, they wouldn't trick them. They wouldn't say, hey, we're going here, but then they end up at the gym. But they would say, hey, we need to have better communication. We need to have more cohesion with our team. We have to probably communicate better, work together better. You generally, I'm seeing as talking on behalf of a leader towards your group, like if you take better physical care of yourself, there's a very good chance you're going to have better sleep, better creativity, better collaboration, better mood regulation, better everything. But if you do zero exercise, you're always going to be stuck in this kind of circulating negative spiral. So let's get you some exercise. And so exposure to that, and just the actual 1 hour session of being together and doing a workout together where it's non-work related, you take your work hat off and you're the human. That type of stuff helped a lot for teams getting to know each other. So they would bring us in for that. And then it was just people would be vibes after their sessions when we go on site. They're going back to their office desk and they're just elated and they're feeling what is the thing that we know very well, which is post-workout endorphins and all these good things that happen chemically. And if it's happening all the time, you kind of live in that state all the time, and it's a great spot to be. But they weren't experiencing that. So we're giving that to the office space. And they were just like wanting more of it, and escalated. But it always started with a team leader that was a champion that would say, our team needs this. Let's do it in the way that lands for the group. But it would be that as a person who's paying the bills, and also the person who sees that it's going to help with all the reasons that I just mentioned.
And I think that's something that often many coaches and affiliate owners or gym owners forget, is that often our members have lives outside of the box. And sometimes they're in roles and positions that could really use our help as such. And I'm wondering, how did you first react when your member came up to you going, okay, we need something? What was your first reaction?
Well, I was grateful. Obviously, they don't have to do that. They can go elsewhere. A big thing when you're CrossFit is that if you say the word CrossFit, they will go to the CrossFit Games in their minds, because that's what's generally exposed publicly and on platforms and social media. And so I would not actually say that word. I would actually say we're just going to do some group team building or group exercise or movement. And we wouldn't come in there and do Fran, but we would come in there, we would do teach you how to do a correct air squat, learn to do a compact, correct, gymnastically adequate push-up, learn how to do the progressions and tailored exercises so that you felt comfortable being in the gym, first of all. As time went on, we would learn to do different types of intervals, introduce strength training sessions, and move towards it the same way. So I felt grateful when people would introduce me. I felt excited because I knew that I was going to be able to teach these people how to work out, how to actually work out so that for the rest of their life, they knew how to deadlift, they knew how to lunge, they know how to retract their scap, they knew how to put a workout together. I was excited about the future vision of that group, and I have countless people who I've coached that are like that now, where they have taken ownership of their own week because of the time that we spent prior, and they're comfortable putting a workout together, and they're into it and they love it, and they're an example for their kids of like what it means to be healthy and active, and like there's all these great things, and their stress management's better because they have exercise, and their mental health is good because they have exercise. So I felt excited for the vision. I felt grateful in the moment for the opportunity. And then it was just like, let's get to work and get help to this group and move in a tempo that works for them.
Yeah. And everything is not roses and light as such. What were the challenges you met along the way or you faced?
As any group, well, number one, in corporate, it's always going to be budget is a thing, right? You're dealing with a company perhaps that has or does not have a budget for things. So that's always a thing that at some point you need to be very open and honest about. It's not the first question, obviously. But it is part of it. And then there's like, just, I don't know, like workout expectations. So people feel in the dumps about not being able to do certain things. So there's a lot of encouragement and appreciation of like, hey, listen, you sit for 6 to 8 hours a day. So the reasonable thing to do is to, number one, offset some of the positions that you're in 6 to 8 hours a day. Number one, in our session makeup. So expectation management going into a session was the biggest thing I found challenging, because people just think they're going to jump right into hitting some sort of like big bad workout. You're like, no, we need to open your hips up. We need to like do some thoracic. We need to like teach you how to get do anti-desk stuff. Then we need to do like a skill review. So just like the slow process of teaching people how to actually put a session together is seemingly arduous, I would say, for a coach at times, but it's like super necessary to have good foundations moving forward. So that was a big point of friction, I would say, because people just want to get in, smash, and then go have their lunch. It's like, you're going to injure yourself, and I'm not going to be part of that. So that was a big thing, I would say. You know, a little bit of budget stuff, if you're talking logistics for a coach listening, it's just knowing what that is. And then, you know, what the kind of outcomes are that you want with that team lead that you're talking to in corporate. But then the logistics of in the class session is like, like don't do certain things that are not appreciating time spent at the desk. A lot of folks are sitting for long periods of time and they have not been active for a while. They need a slow roll.
But I love the phrase you use, the anti-desk type of movements as such. And I think we can all have in our minds ideas of what that would look like. But for you, what would if you had to explain it to a new coach, what for you would be anti-desk movement?
Anti-desk movements would be things to do with so things that don't move or go into a bad position at the desk. So I'm sitting here right now, so I'm thinking about my feet and ankles. So something to do with some foot mobility, calf, ankle, Achilles. So something to do with that. So having there be movement and blood flow to that area. So, and that can be achieved in a variety of different ways. So you can get creative with that. Number one is like knee flexion. So you're like maybe just staying in a stationary position. So getting your knee to go flexion, extension in some capacity. Quads are tight because you're just mute sitting down there. So your quads and muscles are looking down. So something to get that lengthened out. Hip flexor, same thing. Mid back, so in the back end, getting there to be some sort of thoracic movement in and out, rotation that's non-weighted, something to do with your pecs. I find that's the biggest one. People forget they want to do all this upper back stuff, but your pecs are short and tight. They need to be addressed. So there could be soft tissue here through the crossball work. There could be wall stretchers or floor stretchers or otherwise for the pecs above the armpit. And then I would go to the back. And then it's like scapular type stuff that gets your back to contract and squeeze into its proper position. And then they're like, maybe there's neck stuff too that you can blend in there with some stretching. But I go like toe to head. What are the things that are usually quiet when you're sitting or not being used at the desk? Address those in a nuanced way with your stretches, and you're going to have people starting to feel a little bit taller, a little bit looser, and a little bit better from time spent at the desk.
I love the purposeful intention in looking at that aspect of their corporate lives as such, because from the CrossFit perspective, constantly varied functional movements of high intensity as such, and often we miss that part of we need to start moving to begin with as such. And you mentioned about expectations as such and managing them. How do you manage them towards the corporate level?
I like to remind people like where they were when we started as a way to help them not feel bad about their present day exercise. So just remember the consistency is one thing. So I'll lean on people to remember how inconsistent they were a month or 6 months ago, and then talk about how consistent they are today to boost their mood, have them do some reflection and give them some insight. They're like, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, I am doing better. I'd like to get people to get themselves recorded on a video so they can see you're knocking it out of the park with technique. You did not know how to do this before. Now you do. That's with you forever. So like getting that to qualify that they're doing well with the thing you're asking of them is very valuable. We know this coaching in the gym. You don't need to go around recording everything. It's distraction. But there is a time and a place to get a person who's never seen themselves exercise doing an amazing movement that they don't think about, but you're like, qualifications right there. You're doing it. Great job. And then so that boosts mood. And just like a variety of other things. Well, those are a couple of things that kind of come off the top of my head. It's ways to get people to, feel good about themselves in session and kind of get around it.
As I listen to you talk, I'm intrigued. Was there anything that surprised you when you made that transition into the corporate wellness and fitness world?
It's surprising still that there's not programs in place for people to like be given time, permission, and guidance for exercise. It's crazy. It is the number one protocol with all therapists for every scenario to help. If you have anxiety, if you're depressed, if you're going to go into surgery, exercise is part of that protocol from every single therapist. It doesn't mean that's the same type of protocol where everybody lifts heavy weights or does the same movement, but it is part of the protocol for literally every solution. If you have a mental health things that are going on and you're dealing with that, there might be a dose of medication, there might be a dose of therapy with a person, but no matter what, if either of those are there, exercise is part of it. So it's, to me, the surprising thing with dealing with corporate has been that there's still, no matter all the studies, all the articles, all that stuff, there's still a gap. There's like a lack of real meaningful program for human beings. We're all like human centric. Oh, you should lead human centric. You should do this. It's human centric. Oh, the best way to lead is this. The top 10 ways to not lead is this. Like, we know this LinkedIn stuff is like, we're getting hit over the head. It's insane. I can't stand it because I'm like, hi. The answer is exercise. The answer is having a person like yourself, me, or other coaches watching, walk into the office and create great vibes with exercise. And it could be stretching or other things. So I'm just always surprised that there's not more programs in place in more companies to help be the solution for what is a mental health crisis amongst most human, like most groups in most countries. And it's a stress management tool, which is common amongst all corporate. It's two things. So that's what I'm surprised about.
Yeah, no, and I think this touches on a deeper cultural problem in a lot of the developed world where it's the quick fix, it's the tablet, it's the injection, it's that type of thing. And I remember myself with my family, my father had a medical incident and he was prescribed medicine, medication, and movement. But culturally, he saw the medication was more important than the movement. And it took a long time to shift that balance to go, no, but this is also prescription. It is a medical prescription. And it took and it's that shift, I think, that needs to happen in the greater culture, this awareness that they're both equally important, if not movement even more important from a preventative point of view. And I think based on that note, when you enter a company for the first time, I can assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that not everybody is quite on board with this idea of having to move.
Yeah.
How do you help those people get over that fear of movement or things like that?
As you know, you're asking me a question now. So as a good coach, you have to be very curious. I think you should be always asking questions, and you can read if you have some experience where you can read reactions and you can gauge your group and you can scan and see how people posture their feet and their hips and their shoulders and how they react to certain questions. So being curious with questions and having a read on how those questions are being received and kind of the answers that come with it. So a lot of questions and curiosity about people's current exercise routine, what their emotional state is and what their feelings are towards exercise, how they state it, how they get it, who they talk to it about, if they like it or don't like it, if it's a joke to them, if it's more of a social thing, but just like constantly peppering the groups that you coach with questions. And they don't have to have answers on the spot. Sometimes they say a question, I don't get an answer in the class. I'm just like, who's getting some exercise this weekend? They're like, yeah, right. Like, so it's just like, but it's out there, and it's like over time, those things help with a group that's maybe new to it, and the resistance that maybe comes with somebody who's not active. They're worried about how they're going to look. They're worried about how they're going to move in front of others. They don't feel good about themselves. They don't have a new workout attire. They're thinking about work. They're thinking about what's for dinner. They've got all this stuff on their mind. So you have to go into corporate things, and you have to know that this person is coming in the middle of what is sometimes the most mentally consuming time in their day, which is the middle of a work day or in and around work day. You've got to appreciate that for the coaches that are out there coaching this, right? It's not a 6 a.m. class. 6 a.m. class is different, where they're coming in. It's their first thing. They kind of haven't started their mental checkpoints throughout the day yet. They're just the end of the day, same thing. They come in at 5, 6, 7. Their day's done.
Yeah,
right?
Their mental load is different as such.
Exactly. So in corporate, you're meeting them with having counted. Some of them are in accounting. Some of them are regulatory affairs. Some of them are these other roles where they're counting. They're in meetings. They're having to pay attention. There's all these different requirements. You're taking them 5 minutes from being in those meetings and in that situation. Appreciate that. Take it slow. Put some music that's got the shoulders bumping a bit. Do some stuff that's like rudimentary seemingly. I play a game. I like to have a game that comes in. There's lots of games that you can pull from CrossFit classes that are not complicated, that just have them laugh and kind of get present. Lead them through the stretch. Don't just say, hey, this is what we're doing, and leave them to do it. Lead them. Monkey see, monkey do. Encourage them. Positive affirmations as you go along, and do a slow roll of your session into over time. Maybe you're going to have some strength elements included in the back half after you get people kind of away from their desk and woken up a little bit and knowing where they are. And just like, don't ask too much of them to start, because like the capacity is not there. It's just, you got to get them in the habit of being there, and the vibe it feels of having got there and then done something and then see you later fist bump. Like, you got to get them through that a bunch of times to know that it's going to be a thing that they feel comfortable going back to. And I feel like that's, some advice maybe for people going into corporate and something to consider.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, you're trying to normalize movement as such. And I think I love the fact that you asked the question, who's moving this weekend? And even if you don't get an answer, it's still planting the seed that it's normal to do these things. This is okay. It's not, you're not going to be the weird one as such if you do it. And I think I'm definitely intrigued with, how does a corporate, I'm not asking for the details, but what does the corporate program structure look like? Because for a lot of coaches and gym owners, they wouldn't really maybe have in their heads what it would look like. So if let's say you went to work with Mannheim Production Company.
Yeah. So like the actual outline of a session?
Not a session, the structure. So how many weeks would you work with them, or months, or what would the build-up look like?
Another surprise, if you want to talk about something that surprises me with what I do, is that it's so different for each one. How you become a vendor. So being a preferred customer for usage. So I want to come in there and be the preferred person that company uses for exercise. So becoming a vendor, that process, some similarities, but very different. So just what to expect there is expected to be different for each company with what they ask of you with, ABC, insurance, and all that stuff. So that process, number one, is different for each one. But you want to get there, because once you're a vendor, they'll just use you all the time for benefits fairs. They'll use you first for any other additional team building. They'll use you first for doing a workshop. They'll use you first for obviously the group classes, which is predominantly where I'm trying to get my feet wet with companies. They'll use you first for all things exercise related. I get used first for consultation on building a gym. So what equipment should I use based on the space that we have? We've got a budget of this. What should I do? I'm like, I've done this 20 plus times. I'm in the consultation with facility managers and HR and other people about how to build a gym that is going to be an escalation of what they currently have. I'm the person who's getting consulted on for a variety of things. So it's like getting to become a vendor. So like in conversation to start for those coaches looking to get into corporate, part of it is like try to get yourself to become that person. Number two would be group classes. I will do single sessions. So I may come in and do like a talk on physical wellness. That is a higher rate because it's one session. So I'm going to price structure. There's no long-term commitment. I'm coming in for one time. That's higher rate. Then you can get into whatever you want in terms of packs. So it could be 12, 24, 48. Ideally, they're buying that up front, lower cost per session, the higher amount of commitment that they have, similar to some CrossFit affiliate membership rates. You can go to a scenario where it's separate from that. At the end of the month, whatever amount of sessions that were used, you invoice for that. So just like I'm talking openly about like the logistics of what to expect when you go to a corporate setting, you could go in there and it's once a week, Wednesdays at 12 o'clock. And that's what they want. And it's just that. It could be Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11:30. It just depends on the frequency based on your initial discovery call and what they have budget for and what they have an appetite for in terms of membership. I've ran stuff is a health and wellness accountability call. I ran that for multiple years. We sit down, we start the call with wins from the last week. So what has gone well with your health and wellness, taking into consideration all the pillars of it. So environmental, physical, relational. So what are your wins? Number two, go into like a funny question. Well, if you could be a cereal box character, which one would you be? And then we go into like 3 to 5, maybe deeper questions about one of those pillars. So let's call exercise. It's like, when's the last time you felt great about your workout? When's the last time you worked out with somebody else? And then you go through all these questions, then another funny one, and then goals for the next week. And that's the template. And I've ran that type of section, and that's been great. People have gotten themselves well. So it just depends on what the discovery call brings. And being very pragmatic, I would say, is the best way to go about going into corporate.
Yeah. Thank you for your openness and honesty about what you offer. And I can imagine that some coaches and affiliate owners, when they hear this, and they're thinking, "Oh, become a vendor, become a preferred supplier. Oh my gosh, that's too much red tape." What for you, if you had to start off again, specifically with that section, what would you like to know about becoming a vendor for a company?
Good question. I would have all your ducks in a row with the things that you're going to need. So you need to have a copy of all of your insurance to easily send their way. They're going to have their own internal insurance, but you need to have yours accessible. You need to have all of your business information just saved and accessible to be able to pass along. I don't know how it works in Europe, but in Canada, there's Canadian and then there's US. You might need to have what would be like the equivalent of some things that are known in Canada, but like there's a US equivalent. So just like generally knowing that, they don't expect you to know everything. You're not a robot. You're not AI. You're not going to have the perfect answer. So like just realize the other person that you're talking to wants you to become a vendor. They're going to help you. They're not just giving it to you and then making you feel like you're on an island feeling stressed about this new corporate gig. They want to help you. It's to the company's benefit. So just that helps me feel at ease knowing that there's a liaison on the other side that is going to just help me along the way. Hey, I don't know what this is. Hey, what is it? It's okay to not know that stuff. You'll figure that stuff as you go along, like you have coaches listening in the past for all other things, right? Believe in your ability to figure it out. And so that's a big thing that coaches forget when they go to corporate. Like you're talking to and going to coach humans. You've been doing this a long time. That's all it is. It's nothing. Not everybody's wearing suits and wedding attire in your class. It's not fancy schmancy. They're going to show up in workout attire. They're humans. They have lives. They have kids. They have stress, and then they leave. The same thing. It's just getting yourself to be kind of qualified under the entity of that corporate company before you start doing the thing that you already have experience doing. So like those are a couple main things. Have your ducks in a row with the documents that would be asked of, like your business, your incorporation number, your banking information is a big one. So just know what all your banking information is, because that'll allow you to get paid. So have that stuff right, like there, so you're not scrambling. Well, what's my institution number? What's my account number? Just have it all saved.
Yeah, and I think often we forget that those things should be available in an easy package, for want of a better word. That other companies expect you to be able to quickly produce that information, that it isn't that you have to go searching in your files for a week to find it.
It's just like, if you have that stuff, if I could have gone back and had all that stuff just perfectly organized, not that I didn't, but just that was commonly come up. It just quickly ggets you paid more, and it quickly gets you on the gym floor or in front of people versus being any hiccups, and it's less stress for you as a coach. You want to just make your life easy. Have your banking information readily available, have your incorporation readily available, have your insurance readily available, have a work statement's a big thing, friends. So like part of it is they're going to say, okay, so we're going to talk in person about what we want to do. Say we're going to do a 24 pack once a week, group training sessions for 1 hour. Great. So they need to have you write up what it is that you're proposing. It's called a work statement. So you need to write out what you're proposing as the service coming up with all the detail, not an essay with citation, but just some details. You send that in, they take that, they'll able to qualify to get a number, which is a PO. They'll send the PO back to you. Then you take the PO and you can invoice them. And that's the process that I was like, what am I doing? Am I,
all this paperwork, numbers.
And I'm telling everybody out there that if I can figure this out, literally any other coach can figure it out. I'm not like, I'm not a caveman, but like I've gone through all this stuff. It's you can do it, but that's what to expect. That work statement, produce what it is, get your PO, have the PO attached to an invoice, and then send that back. And that's going to get you paid.
Yeah, it's essentially how corporations work, is that they have to figure out what they want and what you can give them, and then they gave this PO purchase order out to you. So, and yes, we want to purchase it. And I think it's a bit more of a formal handshake than a lot of owners and coaches are used to. But I think you're right. It's completely doable. And there are people there to help you along the way. They don't want you to fail at the end of the day. Yeah,
they want you to do well, and they're there to help you. It's like I think of the person that I deal with, administrative assistants and human resources, and they are like, if you're in university or college and there is a tutor. So the tutor is just there to help you do well. Like, they want to see you do well. And it's the same thing. Those people are there in that same capacity. That's how it's felt for me anyways, with anybody I've interacted with corporate. Fortunately for me, I've dealt with great people.
Yeah. I want to take a slight sidestep, because I'm active on LinkedIn, and I saw a video of you LinkedIn leading a large meeting of people through some movements. Yeah. How did this come about? Because it's something, I mean, I used to work in corporate world, and I certainly never experienced going to a large meeting and then having to move. So I'm intrigued how this all came about.
Well, so it's people that I have in my network that are in charge of or part of a committee putting together an event or conference have understood that conferences are out of whack. You sit down, you smash coffee all day, you have a croissant, there's sweets, you're just staring at the person on stage, and there's obviously valuable content, industry related and sector related, but you're just there all the time, and it's like, and then you're sitting, more coffee, maybe another croissant, and then there's no actual like things that would help a person stay engaged, to feel well, to offset their sitting, etc. So I've had people that have fortunately said, you know what, let's bring Dan in and have a conversation about just general wellness. So talking about, some pillars in wellness and what to, asking questions and getting some answers and kind of just, working the crowd a bit. And then the other thing is like not talking about it or having a slide about it, but actually doing it in person, a stretch. So getting people out of their seat, doing some stretches, having a laugh, sitting back down, doing some more chats, having some dialogue. Maybe there's icebreakers there too. I've had that be part of the case where we've actually had big groups play games, and that's been helpful because what it allows to do is literally break the ice, but there's networking involved inherently at these conferences. You want to have them feel comfortable to have already had a laugh, to then have that conversation about business stuff in 30 to 40 minutes down the road. So that's kind of the reason why I do those things. And so it's been a mix of all those things. And I again, the thing that surprises me is that there's just a lack of, outside of an actual fitness expo or a fitness related conference in corporate, there's no helpful, real on spot wellness in terms of movement and exercise and stretches at a lot of the conferences. And I'm knocking on doors very loudly on a weekly basis to try and get myself into it. And I won't stop until I get more. And it's an option for coaches watching to be able to, it's just coaches, the corporate thing's got this own stiffness and like extra layer to it that I hope to, through our conversation here and others that I have, a lot of people just remember, hey, you've been in front of groups coaching before, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not supposed to know everything, but there's a large lack of what is movement and exercise and these positive health and wellness messages in what you're doing in your affiliate, in your gym, is very necessary into the corporate setting. And it's going to land and people are going to feel good and they're going to be thankful you came. And you don't have to know every single nuance of every single micro nutrient and everything about when you go to a talk. You don't have to have the answer for everything. You probably already have enough things that you've experienced coaching to have a really positive impact in a corporate setting, events and conferences being one of them.
Yeah, no, and I love that idea of essentially you're planting seeds as such. And I think it's worthwhile mentioning again, you don't have to be an expert in every field, as long as you get people to start thinking in the right direction as such. Yeah. I'm really intrigued. What advice would you give to a coach or an owner thinking of maybe dipping their big toe into the corporate world? So they're a bit wary and things like that.
So you probably have somebody in your network that does lead a team, right? Like you said, coaches and owners and stuff maybe don't realize how well connected their members are or what they do outside of being in that class working on a thruster or working on whatever else they're working on. So, but they probably do have somebody. So I would start with that. Start with having an offline conversation, not in class where they're huffing and puffing or focusing. Ask for 15, 20 minutes of a member that you've caught wind of that is in the corporate setting. And then when you go to that conversation, look to see if there's any sort of problems that you can solve in terms of what you have to offer, and start with a person that you already know. So call it Tom or Suzanne, who's your member, and have them and their team be the place that you go get your feet wet with, whether you bring them into the gym or you go on site. So you've got like the comfort level of already knowing this member, already talking about it, already having a game plan. Go there, capture some pictures, remind yourself of through watching the pictures and videos afterwards, get some feedback, what worked, what maybe didn't land. Did you like how you laid it out? Kind of rinse and repeat the same way we do with coaching sessions in the gym, like do your analysis afterwards. And then same thing, go to the next member and the next member. And then a big thing for growing after that is literally asking for referrals. So people are not inherently inclined. A small percentage of people are inclined. You got to ask. And you might be surprised yourself with how willing people are, but you just got to ask because they're thinking about their own stuff. They're not thinking about helping you maybe. So that's my suggestion for starting out if you got a membership at a network that way.
And I love the last suggestion of asking for referrals, because often as coaches and affiliate owners, we forget to do that. We forget that often our members, our athletes can be our biggest ambassadors. Yeah. And we forget to use their superpower as such. I always like to end these conversations with a question of, if you had to go back and do everything again, so let's say you're in university, what advice would you give yourself?
So I like the way that I did things.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big thing is, not that I didn't, but I think I would do more of is just surrounding myself with people who are smarter than me, who are better athletes than me, who are better at business than I am earlier in my career. And I think that if you're humble enough to do that, you're going to just be around people who are going to help you grow. So big thing with coaching is you get your credential, you do your hours, you feel all good, chest is puffed up, feeling great, but it's a non-stop growth mode as a coach. You have to constantly be reading books, reading articles, critically thinking, asking questions, doing assessments, thinking long-term, looking back. You have to constantly be doing that. So if you surround yourself, if I were to go back, and not that I didn't, but I would do more of this. I would surround myself with people who were really savvy with business, who are really good with coaching in terms of how they handle their money. I'd surround myself with people who are who I want to be as a person in 10, 15 years and how they conduct themselves with exercise. I'd surround myself with a person who's really good at being married, because I was new to this. So I'd be surrounding myself with all these different things of a person who I want to be. I'd have those people around me that are farther advanced to be able to have, osmosis and emulation take place. And it would challenge me and push me to become that best version of myself, which I said I did, but I just do lots more of it.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great advice, Dan. I think for all of us, even now, whatever phases we are in our lives as such. Dan, I would like to say thank you so much for giving us your time today and sharing your corporate wellness and fitness journey with us, because I think it's a topic that we should discuss more within certainly the functional fitness space, because we have a powerful tool to help so many people, and we don't have to only help them inside of our box, inside of our gym. So thank you for your time today, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Farian. And I want to say to the audience, if you want to sit down for 15, 30 minutes and talk about kind of how to strategize, and honestly, a lot of the conversation ends up having the other person, when I talk with them, have some confidence in what they're trying to go after. If you want to sit down, no cost. I love mentoring. I love to consult. I love to know that there's going to be a positive influence from coaches that have a history and experience and care to go into the corporate setting. That's what I'm here for. I love doing that stuff. I've been doing it for years. It's just part of my calling is to help others, and I'd love to have that conversation.
That's great, Dan, and very generous of you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave your contact details in the show notes as such, so people can reach out to you anytime, and of course find you on LinkedIn and other social media places.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
My pleasure.